Hi, everybody. Welcome to our web series Vanlifers, a real story from the road. In this episode, we met Janice and Gregor from Live Travel Play, and we chatted about their experience in traveling through South America for more than 2 years, how they got their van lucky, and tips for couples that want to travel together in a van. Plus, much, much more. Enjoy watching.
My name is Janice. It's my husband Gregor, and we're from Canada, in the Canadian Rockies, a province called Alberta. And right now we're on the beginning of a 2-year European road trip, and we've been on the road for 3 years now. The last 2 years we traveled through the Americas all the way to Ushuaia, Argentina. And we thought it was only going to take us 1 year, but now here we are, 3 years later, and we love traveling.
How did you discover van life?
We've always owned, almost always owned a Westfalia van. So it's always been part of our lives. Typically on weekends, or when we got our 2 weeks vacation, we'd be in the van. And it wasn't until a couple events happened in our life that we thought that maybe we should do something different. And the original idea was to take off for a year, as Janice said, and just travel down to South America. And 3 months later, we hadn't left Mexico yet. Realized we wanted to be do this forever, and here we are 3 years later.
Was it difficult to make the change to living in a van?
When we made the decision that we were going to do this trip and live in the van, it was easy for us to get rid of our things and, just close our business and things like that. But a week before we left, that's when it started to really hit. We were leaving our families, our friends, our roots,
We're
everything.
Gonna be homeless.
Yeah, homeless. And we really started getting very nervous and very agitated, and we couldn't figure out why we were feeling this way. And a friend of ours told us, I think it's because you're leaving all your roots behind, and now you're going to be nomads. And so what we did before we left, we planted those roots again. We saw all the people we wanted to say goodbye to in person or via Skype or through email or text, to just make that connection one more time before we left. And ever since then, we've stayed connected with people, thank goodness to the internet. And that's really allowed us to keep our roots with the people back home. So.
What's your advice on making the change?
If you think that the van life is for you, start downsizing early. Because it costs, to have a van and to run around, especially if you're not working. So start a year before you plan on travel and start getting rid of things. Just get rid of them every week. Get rid of something, and you'll find you don't miss it. And then after a while, you'll find it's a habit. And then after a longer while, you'll find you actually enjoy it. It's one less thing that clutters your space, your brain, your life. Mm-hmm. So it's just. It's hard to jump in feet first. You can't just go ahead one day and say, that's not getting rid of everything. Well, you can, but I suspect it would be traumatic. Just start slowly, start getting rid of things, start cleaning up your life, start minimizing, and before you know it, this is what we own.
Right here.
How has living in a van changed your relationship?
Yeah, I think we're closer now than we've ever been. But sometimes that closeness grates as well. We live in 80 square feet, and when things heat up, as they do in every relationship, there's going to be an argument. It just seems bigger. The argument is bigger and hotter.
But the good thing about that is that because you're in a small space, you have to resolve it very quickly. Otherwise, it becomes completely unmanageable.
Right.
So in a way, our space allows us to accelerate, the makeup, and it's good.
Yeah, it's definitely made us closer.
Yeah.
We know things about each other. We've been married 20 years. We know things about each other now that we didn't know even a year ago.
Yeah.
Some stuff that people should know about each other, but
Any advice for couples?
You just have to talk. Don't let it sit inside and boil up and become something huge. Just if something's bugging you, say it. Say it quickly. Say it right away, and then it doesn't become a big issue. Hopefully.
It's kind of like taking care of the van, right? If you hear a noise that's not quite right, you stop, you check it out, you troubleshoot, you take care of it right away. Otherwise, this thing that was once a little, irritating noise becomes like an explosion in your engine or whatever. And so I think that applies also to relationships. Just resolve it and troubleshoot, and then you can move on your merry way when it's all resolved. So.
And sometimes you just go for a walk by yourself.
In which way does travel affect your life?
I think we're more relaxed. We're more accepting of differences, differences in other people, differences in places, things that you would consider normally to be a hardship now is just like,
Meh.
that's just the way it is. It's you just take a lot more in stride than you used to, because the comfort levels aren't there. Little things like running hot water. We don't have running hot water. If we want hot water for coffee or to wash up dishes, we have to heat it up. And if you let that bother you, because you have to do that 2 or 3 times a day, then
You're never going to make it.
you're never going to make
water?
it. No, it's just, that's just the way it is. Life is a little bit harder, but that's okay. And so we become far more flexible.
For me, I think the way I live my life, my pace is a lot slower. It has to be slower. You can't rush in the van. And when we do rush, it feels like we're not living life to the fullest. We're just robots, going from place to place to place.
Yeah. And the stress level, when we feel that we're rushing from around just to see things because we're in a new area, our stress levels spike.
Yeah.
And then it gets to the point where we go, what are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing? We just got to slow down. This is how we travel. We travel slow. We can't. That's, that city over there, that museum over there. It'll be there tomorrow. We can just stay here today and just do nothing, take care of ourselves, take care of the van, and relax, and go see it tomorrow.
What are the downsides for you?
No, I think it's all perfect moments. No, downsides.
There is the discomfort that comes with living in a small space that's also moving. So, for example, we don't have a toilet in the van. So if we need to go, we gotta either go outside or go to a grocery store or a gas station.
Or use the bucket.
Or use our bucket. And that's not the most comfortable thing all the time. So that's one thing. And I think that's such a basic thing that we take for granted when we're in a house or an apartment. And to have to think about that and be concerned about that and that occupying your time and space, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah. And we miss family and friends. We don't see them nearly as often as we used to now, even with Skype and email. So that's hard. Janice's sister just had a baby. We spent a few weeks there, and now that's it. We're not going to see this kid for 2 more years. He's going to be up this tall walking, and we'll have missed it all. And that's tough.
Yeah. But that's a trade-off. I think we'll, when we come back from traveling, we appreciate things much more. So
yeah, every visit home is special now, not ordinary.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about returning to your old lifestyle?
We spend evenings talking a lot about what we're going to do when we're finished traveling. And we don't even know when we're going to be finished traveling, but at some point we have to. I think it's inevitable. I can't be driving around when I'm 80, kind of thing. But so we don't know what it looks like. We don't know if we're going to stay in the van but just park it somewhere a little bit more permanently and then maybe drive to Mexico for the winters and stay in Canada for the summers. We don't know if we're going to get an apartment and get jobs again and just do the 9 to 5. That sounds really ugly right now. But we don't know. It's just wide open. But we do talk about it and we do think about the future. But every time we come up with what we think is a decision in a direction. The next day we talk about it again, and we're just off in another direction because it's so far in the future.
Yeah. But I think what's great about this is that we have choices. We can choose to go back to our other life if we want, but now we're choosing to be here in this van, and that's really a gift, you know.
Yeah.
How much maintenance does your van need?
Lucky is 30 years old and needs a loving hand. Things break. Everything from 30-year-old plastic, you know, you're turning a knob and it's going to snap in your hand, to 30-year-old suspension, 30-year-old engine. They just need care and loving. And we've done a lot of things to the van to make her far more reliable than a typical van of this age. But it's a constant thing. It's your home. It's like you're living in a house, and you have to make sure that you pay your water bill. You have to make sure that your water heater's working. You have to make sure your roof isn't going to leak. It's the same thing. It's just a smaller space and a little bit different. You want to make sure that your home works, and so we spend a fair amount of time and unfortunately money keeping our 30-year-old vehicle on the road.
What's your advice for anyone who's looking to buy a van?
Everybody travels differently, so it's really, really tough. I would say my advice would be is see if you can rent a small van, rent a big RV, rent a medium-sized RV, go spend a month in it, see what you like. Yeah. Don't just jump into it hoping it's going to work out, because then you might end up disappointed, and 2 months later you're back where you started from, and you sell your vehicle and you're done. Go out and test and play and see what you like. And
yeah, because with these old vans, you almost have to be also a mechanic too to keep moving. Otherwise, you're having to stop and spend more money to pay somebody to troubleshoot for you and things like that. So I think if you have something that's mechanically sound to begin with, that helps. And if you don't, then learning how to fix vans or fix electronics and things like that really helps too.
We put a lot of effort into making Lucky dependable, but she still breaks down, and we still have to know how to fix it ourselves, because it doesn't always break down in a city. It doesn't always break down in self-service range. It's so you just have to know when you have a van that requires a little bit more care and attention. If you have something newer, the odds of it breaking down are slimmer, and then that's something you don't have to worry about.
Is there anything you can't live without in the van?
A few of our favorite items is that fridge.
It's an ARB chest fridge, or ARB, I guess, chest fridge.
Runs on 12 volts. Made a big difference, because now we can go 5 days without having to go into a store, buy groceries. It all lasts in there. We wouldn't go anywhere without our coffee pot.
Yeah.
And more recently, particularly here in Europe in the winter, we installed a furnace, and that has been amazing for us to be able to be comfortable in the really, really cold nights.
What tips would you give for traveling in South America?
Well, I think it's very different than traveling in North America or even Europe, in that there are a lot of places and people that don't have all the amenities that we have, and so there's poverty, and there's stray dogs that are starving in the streets, and there's water that doesn't look so clean, and so to be accepting of that, and to be aware that that's the kind of terrain that you're going to be going through, and that not everything is going to be easy to find. Sometimes drinking water is hard to find.
Sometimes propane's hard to find.
Yeah.
Sometimes a fresh vegetable is hard to find.
And so just being flexible and aware.
Yeah.
I think that.
Yeah.
That's,
But my advice to anybody who wants to do it,
just do it.
You will not be disappointed. Just do it.
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
I want to say that the van community is really amazing. People online, people you meet, Whenever we meet other people in vans, there's a connection and this feeling that, yeah, I'm not alone in doing this. So even if you are in the middle of nowhere, you can always know that you can contact somebody in your van life community and get help for it with mechanical things, with even relationships or travel tips, things like that.
Yeah, the van life community is family.
Yeah.
It really is. And maybe it's because we're all kindred spirits, because we're all doing the same kind of thing, not necessarily always for the same reasons, but we're all going through the same processes and living basically the same lifestyle. But it's van lifers are kindred spirits, and they become family. You get so close to people. It's amazing.